no numato sumienu abapemo aha eye pent radio 100.1 FM yo kumase asokwa Pentecost House. Anumre no num ene fakasie ena ebraso se ye de broken kan for ye me ohene banya akomene
mame ajua ahenkra ketri
adwen pahene Kofi Mensa ebo echidom so ena kwabena uso diomi technical room one more ASK okay one streaming live on Facebook and YouTube at the MIA and as your boroni yentabri na yemfema ohene race spices na fin so ohene on dairy padded milk say one abaso ya sisika fem one na ma ya hoden a ya trase enanyum ready ka se nebro na de di makotini bi enie also for Samuel Ado ano were resident minister Oboasi PIWC wasi obi bia nyame ewo nhira wode ama ona senhira no honhom na wose edadi ewo honamani
Public Accounts Committee ede atodwo se wonom a womo eye aban adwuma motimi agisika 12.9 billion from monchen ede ama aban
ono nyamfo kwabra minta kando ye oswafo wono na hwe empomudensam so wase Ghana for dodo na ewo no eye yare a ehihye ntoma mu a yenhu kyese eni sunso so enadi obehwe apa na atam obi konsiedo
Acting Chief Justice enso ediato ajejefo animu se yade kwadu ebu obi se wotu efomagudi a emfa mra kwan so a na senie no eye omo ntwentwen so
Professor Nana Jeno Poku Agyeman Vice President ene wase ensu a ho akwatwe e wo mfimfim antamunity Polytank be se duonum wasesa ede akomo manfo no Aswaya womo hye enwomesua ho nsem so ede atodwa se omo pe 3 million Ghana cedis na omo di sisi adan ama suku a yede womo agina se omo ye category A Adeshe ensem bi no ka ho ne atena se na nwumre de bro se nunum ane fa kase ye dane hutia wane agye abofo nkrato ye de kase ne nkyeremu ebeto awoso enche
Midofo a minnim ho agro na say die waduane ne da no ayesronko
ani omura ohene spices abafi aduane de ayesronko ohene chicken seasoning so wotutu wochi ana wo ye akokɔ nam ho bibia fakakra sum
froye no
ohene stew seasoning ba manageta
jollof no
ohene jollof seasoning ma muhwam ne odew mu odew
fried rice no kra die
ohene fried rice seasoning e ma me fredwa frede aponchin kakra no me de ohene go seasoning na ye asama me se mira ohene seasoning powder ya woni beef shrimp noodles any de kekeka anusu ede aduane ne hwam ne mede no ubedie dibio enti obapa ohene spices abama yen aduane no aye dedede efise ne die ne nso aye dedede
ohene spices edeye
e wodwa hodomu etofon for 020-780-5398 and 0244-525908 FDA agi edwedien kratoi atum
Adeshe mo akwa de bakasia no so afa yemu ram ne emfa ensam no nkyeremu yemfa ntwo so ye sha se de free asori dem ye copy IWC ewo oboase so for we resident minister da no ye Pastor Samuel Ado ano na no kwasia dan na wone asori ma ekasa na eyade a wonum ahyehye dwumadi a eda wonum animu a eno eye filling station higher life crusade baso na eno no wache so soro bebie eno wache so onipa biya na nyame edo abedua asasi so no ye wo enhira bi ma enhira no ewo honhom e wo se dadi ewo honamani na enhira no bedadi a ewo so otimi twen awrade anim na utimi ewrampa bo do wo ho agye eye owen ne mpaibo ene nkanyan esom emu na no wo chese se enhira ne se ba enye onkwampo ene otini de o enye onkwan so ne be eka afoforo enso we eye Pastor Samuel Ado ano.
So God has already released to us every blessing in Christ Jesus, but in the heavenly realm. It is therefore expedient on our part to receive these spiritual blessings in Christ Jesus in the physical. What is in store for us in the heavenly realms must manifest in the physical realms, because we are blessed in the spiritual realm, and it is in Christ Jesus. And I want to say that this is received through an open heaven. When the heavens open, the Lord, He gives us His blessing. In a season of revival or outpouring, the heavens invades earth. When there is a revival, when there is an outpouring, the heavens invades earth, and we experience what we call open heavens. What then is an open heaven? An open heaven is a season of outpouring, number one. a season of divine visitation and revival among God's people. So this open heaven and those blessings then spills over into our communities or our regions, so that even the unsaved are affected. When there's a spillover of these blessings, if I say spillover, I mean an overflow. Those living waters, others are blessed. That is why when we are experiencing open heavens, we don't just sit in our closet in our place, but we step out there. We cause an impact, an influence. We let others also experience this God and this divine visitation that we have had from God.
Ania Wotie a resident minister PIWC Obuasi Pastor Samuel Ado Ano.
Adeshia ye tuansem na so amamum. Public Accounts Committee wonu manyamfo abna osaya sare edanom onukro ya esan yemrahye bedwani ma adehia muwa etiwa east wono ena kasayin na wane nsem twofo atwetwe nkomo a wo chemeche sese wo hye amai abanya dwuma ahoduo bia ewo oman mu a Procurement Act no enya de se wo mu ediso wose mpempi no so bovura abanya dwuma mu a niema ehyeda ekoso wo ho no eya ne ntwa ye kura wamone yeye sene yesi yusu sika ewo honom eya na nye ni nyina ejina se amamra ebo abanya dwuma bia ho ban no eya na omototo na se enti ono de owogidie ewo arehemu se emre ekonanim no eniema ebetimi asesa.
We are not doing what is expected of us as protecting the public purse as we are supposed to do. In this particular sitting, we saw a lot of infractions in relation to entities using internally generated funds without approval from the Ministry of Finance. So then you see recommendations like write to Ministry of Finance through your ministry for approval, write to Ministry of Finance for approval on this and that. And one thing is also clear, it is because we are not applying the sanctions. If we apply the sanctions to these infractions that the ministries, departments and other agencies are cited, it will go a long way to reduce. But one thing that I'm clear about is that what we are doing is yielding positive results. We have a report which we would look at per the work of the Public Accounts Committee and the support of the Auditor General. We have been able to retrieve about 12.9 billion Ghana cedis. And there's a whole report on that we'll be sharing with the public at the right time. So yes, we are making impact, but we can do better than what we are doing now. And that is why we want to ask for support from the media as well, because we are all partners in this. As we all bring it to the fore and see how best we can support each other to make sure the right things are done, I believe it will go a long way to reduce the infractions that we see when it comes to the management of our public finances.
Na enuchi ena onimanyamfo se asare esan edi abasobo ema auditors ya no mokọ aban adwuma ahoduo mu ekohye eniema ekoso no abo mabaso se omadwuma omoye no eso ani pa afa wo se directors a eya no omodeda aban adwuma ahoduo na no ne se eniema eni akwanya aban na edi egu ho efasikasem ho no eya wo mo hwese ombedi so.
We will work together and encourage others who are also coming to make sure they follow the right path. And clearly, we can see that, one, the auditors are doing very well. There are certain issues that previously you didn't find in the Auditor General's report, but now you find in the Auditor General's report. So they are bringing all these things to the fore. And it is up to us to also work with the relevant people to make sure we cure some of these ailments in the society. But I must also say that the heads of the entities, the chief directors and the ministers are also equally responsible, and they also need to play their part to make sure we all do the right thing. I know for especially the ministers, it is not everything that will run or pass through them, but at least for the chief directors, the principal spending officers, they must be in control, they must be in charge and make sure the right things are done. You know, when these reports are brought to us, so far we have received about 16 reports from the Auditor General. What we do before we sit with the public is to engage the Auditor General, the reasons for their recommendations, how and why they cited certain infractions, so that when you are also querying the auditees, you really understand what you are doing. It is important because it gives better explanation to what we do before we even come out there and sit and ask. So
Etiwa East Emrashe Bejani Osai Eda Public Account Committee no ano Onimonyamfo Abna Osai Asare Nene Eniati
Mame fa wonto aso ne yenwura mpomode ensem no osoafo no ena hwe mpomode ensem so no nyamfo kwabena minta akando wode atudwa wo chese botaye pa etai mahama ke echi no eyese yebetimi asore na yakode eta yare bi no mahihye nipadua ni mu a yenhu yente ehon popo nanso edinipa ekọ ensie do woso bo my Ghana mu a yare hodo anase owu ahodo a yenhu de do na be se oham chichemu aduanan num de wonma baba yare bi a ehihye nipadua ni mu a enyini ho adi obehwa na chese mpufiri mu edinipa no ekọ wode nsem tudwa ebra wone empanifo a wonom ewaso ya wo hwempumudin nsem so esi yenkunwa anaso wotena se ma wodwendwe mahamake ehon.
Reason why His Excellency the President has established the fund, and the fund, the law has been passed, the law has been assented to, the secretariat has been rolled out, and the board has been constituted, and in the next 2 or 3 days we will inaugurate the board.
Eno ena watu aso edeto adwumayefo anim se monye amai emapa na eyemfidie biara aban de beba ha na se ewire sabia mode adwuma mbebo ho ban na matimi akra ne ye
Equipment at the various health facilities. I remember the last time as a country we did major retooling was around 2014. And the sad story is that when government distributes such equipment, the feedback you hear is that it's either faulty or obsolete, and government must bring another money to replace those equipment or to come and fix those equipment.
Ania woti ye ayo no nyamfo kwabena minta kando health minister wono ene etiye no
yamfa kase no enko emfinfini mantamwai na nsainti ya na ye tete every one say emfinfini mantamu ensuo ho akwatwe wo ho ne nyina da ne se galamse eno manfo de omo ho ahyem omutuom enti nso wansu we de da ho na manfo nya bi esanom ne nyina no ese eni aye poto wo sanom a enye yie na enam so ama mampanyin abedi akire Professor Jane Nana Opoku Ajemai abo anan ede ye polytanks 5,000 liters akoma adehia womo ewo emfinfini mantamu se ebetimi abo womo ama womo so enya ensupa anom na nya nonko a womo gusu abo ho yi womo tutu bi ede ama womo na womo de polytank no esisi so ede ama womo finfini mantamu so afo onimonyamfo eko ochrepanyin aduamoa na eko gina mampanyin abedi akire anemu na wade polytank no emaye.
The idea is that if we are having boreholes, then we should have reservoirs, because if you go to some of the mechanized boreholes, you realize that they do not have poly tanks on them. And so you bring a bucket, you press the knob, and just fetch only a bucket, and you run away. That distorts the functioning of the pump. And so Madam said, why not? If you have only Bomwa Central, we have about 26 of them. About 15 of them need reservoirs in the form of tanks. And so she is going to provide that 50 of these 5,000 liter tanks, so that we will support the existing boreholes. Then we also think about how to expand drilling more of the borehole. And so we are here today to present these 10 first tanks to the selected assemblies: Gumwa East, Gumwa Central, Gumwa West, Aguna West, and Awutusenya West. But these are the hard hit areas, and we want to take care of them first before we continue. In the meantime, the assemblies themselves are also in preparation to drill more boreholes.
Na enuachi no ena onimonyamfo yi ede eto ne manfo anim se omunya botoyemu esanse aban wei eye bibia se galamse no obetimi eto ase enti wo gidie se enchekura ensuo na wo muntimi ensanom no ebesan asine dadamu biem.
I want to also bring to your notice that government is intentional about the fight against Galamsey. And as I speak with you now, the people who are destroying the Ayensu part of Enum part of Ayensu, Enum Boso part of Ayensu are being chased away, and now we are seeing a change in the color of the river. I believe that very soon we're going to get them cleared, and treatment plant will come back to life. That's an assurance. Thank you.
On manyamfo eko ochire panyi aduamoa eye emfinfini mantamu soafo
Harisha Mammy found to us in your Mumra and Homesia and Semuna or Swafo Abedi Chre. Or Swafo no and a share Homesia and Samson for Haruna Idrisu at the Atu Jacha say. Walko or Swafo no every sick as some source no quasem. We hear Mwapa Ewan Homesiana as a Honoma. We hear bear 300 million Ghana cedis. Now the Babens or the Babisi dormitories are who at the Ama and to a so sukuno. What the and some to dra ebra University Teachers Association UTAG one HMO at the one official HMO and just a bri a war a PMantemo and Jabian or the two judge say how ye one Siciano. And yes, schools I walk any shot and I say schools a one and additional $4 in a senior high school. Yaba bear double track and I say so yellow, nurse green or debut. Aquay say, Obia Pesuku papa, Sukune Dicano and only a paco. Your schools and Nipampo in Obiampo I apply. But I can see an Obia apply. So I can see one month a dormitory says, woman a Candian a work from 80. Well, here's the cow, the basic dormitories, baby. A Candian said a baby to me at a year and Homesia and some emo. A year on for Haruna Idrisu.
Are we investing in expanding infrastructure in the category A schools? That is not the case since my assumption of office. And again, only this morning, I made a request to the Minister for Finance for additional financing of 300 million Ghana cedis to be dedicated into expansion of facilities of category A schools. Many of them, with a dormitory and a classroom, they can double their intake. It is not to begin the infrastructure and not complete it. If we take Achimota School, maybe Professor Chair, if you permit me, since this is the cream of our best lecturers in the country, can't we even position Achimota that if a child started kindergarten, he can end up in the university in Achimota? Is it not possible? So I'm provoking you that go into your intellectual frame. Achimota has good assets. The suspicion normally is how public officers will relate to that.
Any I would see a year on Yanfo Haruna Idrisu, one day or Swafwa, or share a Homesia and Samso.
Na I was said Jumediana Sim. And our University Teachers Association of Ghana, Ede etu just set one more at the money swadunum. Babe to Jack Nanny Swadun in Yano. Aquajina Galamse, a situono as and on say, one more the pressure pa and ebe see a bine so. Now, why yen shayana mamre bogalamse a situono ban what me a year mukete. No more say yes, any shoe and swear say, into a mutabri tansano. From Mobia, Sir Abino, Abrana, one president, and in some shop for Etchin Como, Professor Vera Fiado, and a watcher say Enche, association no at the woman Shaya, Womaya, a day ebe pushy, a bina man took Galamse Naseno, Ebeba Abetuja.
We have to be bold. Now, if you want to look at it critically, water is the heart of everything. Water is the factory. That's what we drink. Now, whilst it may look like it's so far away from us, in a few years, we are likely to be battling more diseases than we. And already as a nation, we are financially challenged. Now, whilst on the surface, it looks like it creates employment, and so you have people revolting when we make a move. When you juxtapose the cost implications of trying to restore degraded land, etc. together, then you realize that the NPV, or what we like to call the net present value, is negative in the long run. And so if we're going to change that narrative, we must change it, because when any project has a negative net present value, what it means is that it destroys value instead of creating value. So yes, we are going to deliberate and come up with a decision that works for the union. So I represent the union, not necessarily my personal interest. And so we will have a meeting and the agenda will be determined as to what we can discuss. Once we do that, we will inform the relevant stakeholders so they carry out our message.
Professor Vera Fiado, a president Emma UTAG. Na and watching and also for was shang women Samson on Manyan for Haruna Idrisu, Ede Abasu, boy Emma UTAG for San Ukraine. Wama yadia pa se e banner galam se kona, wamontenai into Mofata se, Yabo Mabasu.
Professor Chair, I cannot assume my seat once again without praising UTAG for your principled moral position on Galamsey. No, so continue to be advocates for the good of our country. We need quality air to breathe. We need quality water to drink. Don't waver in demanding that right be done and that the country succeeds in our fight against Galamsey.
Anyway, Oswafo was share and woman Sian Samson Manyan for Haruna Idrisu.
Abainte moi for penny I na were acting Chief Justice Bafo-Boni. Wade ato atemo adwumako na nasete moi for anim essay. Ene yentimi entra senyo enyehwe ha. Emma Galamsey enyi yensu ene yenkwaye yensase emoso. Emma enchirima eba emma mebre. Enunti atemuafo asembi efa Galamsey ho eba beto wani ma mentwentwen so kra winyanya danse trodo a wuhia mpacha mentwentwen na ase fatemu no fabra sede ebe betimi adi Galamsey nsam ne adi nintam kra ebedi nintam so sede ebe ya yenso betimi aboa na yakon atia Galamsey na ase yakon edi atu Galamsey ase wode ensami atudwa ebra na atemu adwumako no wono ahia 2025 annual general meeting ewo Association of Magistrates and Judges Ghana Association wonom enhiamu ase.
The judicial's mandate and responsibility in relation to Galamsey, environmental degradation and drug abuse. As members of the judiciary, we are not policy makers and we do not wield the enforcement powers of the executive. Yet our constitutional role is neither passive nor peripheral. We are the guardians of justice, custodians of the law, and interpreters of the nation's conscience. So our responsibilities in confronting these challenges include upholding the law. We must ensure that prosecutions related to illegal mining and drug trafficking and abuse are handled with seriousness, impartiality, and urgency. And I mean urgency. Where there is evidence, the law must be applied without fear or favor. No person, and I mean no person, regardless of their political affiliation or social status, should be immune from justice. Consistency in sentencing. There is a growing public perception that sentences for environmental crimes and drug offenses are either too lenient or inconsistently applied. We must work towards harmonizing sentencing practices.
Any awoti Justice Bafo-Boni, acting Chief Justice.
Chairman Emma African Union Advisory Board Against Corruption. Eye ora Edem Senanu. Wase so wo said ye ketase hye ene broye pa ekoso ewo mayimu. Ni titiru ene aban adwuma mu. Ankrankra adwuma mu kura no etoda ekoso ewo ho. Yenhwe na yempe court a saa ensem ni nyina yebedi wom. Empempi no saa ensem na ya na ye de koyen ye court dada ya. Enkrate ewo ho doso ensem ewo ho doso. Etiane ye kɔ ekina ye kɔ ne ye ba ne ye kɔ ne ye ba be wiase no ne ye nkohu di asem ne ti kosi ye. Eti secretary ne proye asem ba na nkaja court ayate ede ama saa secretary ne proye no ne de saa asem no kɔ ho ne apagyaje ede atena dwam na watimi edi saa asem no ede amai na timi akontem ede amayen na eno achi no no se ebeya enka aban ensan emfa emra bi mra na wono mo nsam ewo bie ewo mayim no womuntimi emekire baabi a womunya womusika no ede friye ensem wey wodi to dwa wabra stakeholder engagement bi ekoso ewo regional coordinating council nanu enhyiamudie no ase enode ensem wey etudwa.
Well, the previous one, there was a lot of activities, except that the collaboration wasn't as strong. You found that our anti-corruption agencies, many of them were working in silos. The collaborative effort, so that when an issue comes up, if it's no longer in my space but yours, we work together to get it solved. That wasn't very strong. Again, the resourcing, the funding for the agencies to be able to speed up what they do, that too wasn't there. Also, let's say, specialized anti-corruption courts. Because if you take anti-corruption issues to just any court, and judges there don't really understand, it can take 7 years. something that we want to see resolved in 6 months. So there are a number of areas that we found weaknesses in the past where the working together wasn't strong, the financing wasn't strong. The fact that anti-corruption is specialized and things like unexplained wealth, reverse burden, which you find in other jurisdictions, where if you are living lavishly, they can call you to an office and say, explain how you got this money. In Ghana, we don't have a law covering that, so people can do what they want, which means that money that is criminally sourced can come into Ghana and be used freely without anybody arresting such persons. So there's some legal changes that have to be done in terms of unexplained wealth, reverse burden, and also we think we need specialized anti-corruption courts so that the cases can go faster and to set a stronger precedent against corruption.
Ora Edem Sinano chairman Emma African Union Advisory Board Against Corruption. Now